I have a very strict father who doesn't let me do anything. So I lied to him and went on a trip with my friends. What I've discovered here has turned my world upside down. And honestly, I don't know what to do. I think this is my punishment for lying to my mom, but no matter what, I never expected my dad to do something like this. Let me explain from the start. I'm James, and I'm currently in college and live with my parents. My mother, Deborah, is very kind of a person and the best mother in the world. But I might be a little biased, see. My father, Kurt, on the other hand, is kind of mean. He's a horrible human and very strict, but I still loved him and thought that he was a good dad. Growing up, I actually hated my father because he was always strict and never showed me any love. He had that old people's parenting technique of not showing any love to turn a boy into a real man. I think he learned it from his father and raised me the same way that he was raised. He would actually beat me up if he saw me cry because men don't cry. So you can understand where my hatred comes from. It was bad because all of my friends had cool fathers who would do stuff with them, and I felt like I was the only one stuck with a father from the past. It genuinely felt like everyone had cool entrepreneurs as fathers, and I had a cowboy who listened to the radio. Now, everything has its up and down, so having a dad like mine did too. I learned how to fight pretty early on and could pick up a guy pretty easily. So I never got bullied. Also, I'm rarely scared. I almost never make emotional decisions. I feel like I took the best things from all of the garbage he was teaching me. But unfortunately for him, I still do cry from time to time. I never quite became how manly he wanted me to be, so obviously he was not very happy with me considering that aspect. And I always liked arguing with him about that real man thing he always told me, as I considered it just insecure men trying to hide their insecurity. He always got mad, and I always did it to annoy him because I knew his mind couldn't take it. We had our back and forth, but at the end of the day, we both loved one another. Or, that's what I thought. I always thought that my father would stop this parenting thing when I reached 18, but he never did. He still treated me the same and refused to let me do whatever I wanted. I really disliked this behavior, as I had to stay home and watch my friends party and do fun stuff. I barely even got to play games on my computer. Anyways, although my mom did try to help most days and supported me whenever I asked, Dad, that I wanted to do something. So a few months ago, when I asked him if I could go on a trip with my friends, he said no, immediately declined it, even though it was just a few days. But that was a trap I set for him. So, ever since I reached 16, I've been sneaking out. Not very much, and having fun with my friends, and yes, I know it's wrong. But did you really expect me to do anything? I mean, come on, nothing my entire teenage and young adult life? No way! So, when my friends suggested that we take a trip after the end of the semester, I told them I was in. Early on, I asked Dad and got rejected, and started a long argument between Mom and him, which made him really guilty. So, a month ago, when I asked him about going to a friend's place and going camping, he had no option but to agree. It was also because I was not traveling very far and would be back after a little more than a week. Well, Mom also helped, but this was all a lie, as I was going to another state to party, travel, and enjoy life. Me and 3 friends were going, and a cousin of one of those friends were letting us stay at his house. I also had saved some money, so this was looking to be a great trip. Almost 3 weeks later, I left. And although I felt bad that I was lying to my parents, I was still happy, I guess. I should explain one more thing before I do continue. So, my dad's job requires him to travel frequently. He's a veteran, as he served in the Air Force for quite some time, and now he just travels twice a month? I want you guys to remember this, though. So me and my friends finally reached his cousin's house, and the trip started. We had fun for a few days, but my fun got cut short because I saw something that surprised me in a very bad way. 3 days ago, while we were walking to a lunch place, one of my friends told me that he saw my father. I didn't believe him until 5 minutes later I spotted that person too, and he looked just like my father, except for the fact that he dressed a bit younger. In my head, there's no way that could be Dad. Because why would it be? Okay, this sounds really stupid right now, but imagine yourself in my place, and think if you could doubt your father who raised you. It's really hard to get that thought in your head, right? Well, that's what happened to me. For me, there was no way this person could be my dad because his style was completely different and he was with a good-looking woman in her 40s. Purely out of curiosity, I followed him, and he went into a little house further into the city. It looked like he was married, and I actually felt bad because I just followed a complete stranger like a stalker. After I went back, I decided to let it go. But one of my friends kept telling me that it might actually be my dad. The entire day, I debated with him that it could not be him, as this man had a life here. But he proved that with the kind of work he had, he could pull this off. His actually made a lot of sense, which started making me doubt him. The day I called Mom and she told me that Dad had gone on a trip right after I left. When I called him, he ignored my phone. He called me back the next day and said he was busy with work. Well, this made me more suspicious. So I decided to give up on the vacation and just tail the guy to see if what I was suspecting was true. I didn't want to waste my friend's time with all this, so I asked him to continue. I would really feel bad if I was wrong because I tailed the guy. His girlfriend, she didn't have a ring, and a cute child for almost 2 days. Fortunately, or I should say unfortunately, I was not wrong. On the first day, while they were in the shop, I called Dad to check something. The guy did not react and then said something to his girlfriend and went out. Then he called me, and this kind of proved that the person was my dad. I was watching him call me, and I still could not believe that it was true. This is the same man who constantly talked about what it means to be a real man, and belittled me for no doing his way. Is this what being a real man is, Dad? Having a second family? Well, I'm assuming it's a second family because it cannot be anything else unless his work is being a boyfriend or a father figure for hire. I really felt like comforting him, but I decided not to do it. I went back that day, and my friend suggested I follow him the next day too and see the whole situation. It was pretty evident to me what it was, but I thought that I should be fully sure. So 2 days ago, as I tailed them, I noticed a few more things. The woman is significantly richer than us, which may have been the reason. This is just a theory, but I think that she owns a company. As that would explain him being able to take long breaks. But it doesn't make sense if the woman does not know about us. If Dad worked in his company, then he would be able to lie that he was working to come live with us, which means one of two things. That either she knows or she is not connected to his job. But none of this matters because my dad is cheating on my mom and has a child. I have to constantly remind myself that this is not a nightmare. I'll be honest, I don't know if the child is Dad's or not, and I can't tell them from afar if he looks like Dad. Ugh. But whether he has a child or not doesn't really matter, because he is for sure 100% cheating. There can't be another explanation, can it? There's no way this is something else, no matter how much I want it to be. As I'm writing this, everybody's preparing to leave for home, and nobody looks happy, and that's because of me. Well, it's because of Dad, but the same difference. But nobody seems to mind, and they're actually quite eager to know what I'm going to do next, which is what I was planning on asking them, because I don't know. My 4 friends are absolutely torn between me confronting my father or telling my mom about it. 2 say that talking to Dad will make me understand what the circumstances were without endangering their relationship. I've been thinking that, too, as father could have a genuine reason. He's not even the cheating type. But 2 things, to think that I should not waste my time. I'm just confused and I'm sad, and I'm definitely not looking forward to telling my mom if I decide to do that. So I decided to come here and ask you guys what I should do. Please help! Updates number 1. Hey guys, it's me. Well, I'm here for an update, and OMG. It's been a week, and things have gone nuclear. Firstly, I want to thank you for taking your time and giving me advice. I do apologize if I disappointed you guys with what I did. Believe me, if I could change my decision, I would. Let me explain. So after I reached home, I decided to take a day or 2 to decide what to do. This was a big decision, so I took my time. Plus, I could not tell Mom as soon as I returned home. I didn't want to make her sad. I started thinking about telling her, and it felt really like the right thing to do. Before I could make a decision, Dad came home the next day, and seeing how happy he made Mom, I could not go through with it. Plus, Dad, acting the same way he always had, made me think that there was something going on, and I felt the need to know what. I wish I had not listened to that feeling because I would go on to deeply regret everything. I didn't decide to confront Father, as this would not only let me know the full story, but also spare me the pain of telling Mom that Dad has another family. So, a few days ago, when Mom was out and me and Dad were the only ones in the house, I said that I needed to talk to him. I didn't waste any time, I didn't ease into it at all, because I was not the one here who had made a mistake. I asked Father if he was having an affair, and he acted like I had just thrown the worst insult at him. It was unbelievable, and he gets so mad that he almost slapped me. He said, "How dare I say such a disgusting thing?" Now, normally I would be scared by this point, but that day I wasn't. I told him I knew it, he was. But I was just trying to give him a chance to tell me himself. Then I said that he was not even man enough to admit making a mistake and instead was threatening me when his own wrongdoings came out. My speaking back like this gave him an idea that I knew something he didn't. So he did not get more mad and told me to tell him clearly what I meant. I told him that even though there were parts about him that I disliked, I'd grown up admiring him and trying to become like him, but what I had seen completely broke me. I told him it was shameful of him to do that to Mom and that I could not even imagine what she was going to go through when she finds out. Dad looked mad for the entire time I was talking and then took a deep breath. He calmed down and asked me what I saw. I told him the truth, and he was not a bit surprised. He said that he was going to tell me the entirety of it. Then he gave me a brief story about how he met a girl, Monica, fell for her, and even had a kid. He said that he did not mean to cheat on Mom, but just could not help himself around her. After he told me what he deemed was a good enough explanation for doing what he did, he then had the audacity to ask me to keep it to myself. He said as a man, I should understand that these little things happen, and that he expected me to not tell Mom. Not a word. Can you believe it? This man said that he had an affair because he felt like it, and now was asking me to keep a secret? I told him that there's no way in hell I was going to do that, and as soon as Mom came in, I was going to tell her. He presses me and tells me to be an obedient son and do what he said, which made me mad, so I told him that I regretted having a good-for-nothing father like him, and he could not stop me from doing what I was going to do. He then resorted to threats, which unfortunately it worked. He said that if I told Mom he was going to throw us out into the street. He did own almost everything, so it was possible, and we didn't even have relatives here. He tells me that he kept all Mom's savings, so she would also lose that, so I was forced to keep hush-hush. It's been a few days since, and I don't know how long I can pretend to not know anything. Should I just tell my mother what happened? Update number 2. Hey guys, it's actually been a few weeks, but hey, things are finally looking up. I will not have to lie to my mom, not any longer. Actually, as soon as something I'm waiting for happens, I'm going to tell my mom everything. So a few days after my last update, I decided that I could not risk anything by telling Mom right now. I didn't want her to have to leave everything she built just because I couldn't keep my trap shut. Obviously, I was not going to keep it a secret forever. That's because I had a plan. So I have to thank one of you guys for this because I got this idea from here. I just can't remember who. Somebody advised me to visit the girlfriend, saying that if she did not know about Dad's family, she could also be of a huge help. I thought about it for a week and felt it was the best option I had given the situation. Worst case scenario, she knew everything, and she would tell Dad that I came to talk to her and he would get mad at me. But that would not change what was going on even a little bit, so I decided to risk it for the biscuit. I told Father that I was going to stay with my friends for a few days because I could not keep facing Mom like this. I kind of blackmailed him by telling him that he was not going to like it if I slipped and told her the truth. He immediately agreed that I need to go to my friend's place for a few days and clear my head. I told my mother that my friends needed some help with this assignment and I was going to stay with them for a few days. Then I went to my friend's house, but I was only staying for a day because, as you probably guessed it, I was going to travel back to the place where I was taking my trip to confront Monica. As I was traveling, I thought about how I should go about it and decided to just knock on her door and go ahead and explain everything to her. So as soon as she opened up her door, I tell Monica that I was her boyfriend's son. It scared me a bit because she was not surprised. She asked me to come in. I then realized that my father must have told her about us, but not in a way that was going to ruin my plan. He had told her that he had an ex-wife and a son who refused to talk to her, but he still visited that son as much as he could. He had given her some sad story about how his wife cheated, probably to trick her into thinking he was a good person. After I heard the story, I told her, well, No, Monica, that's not true. I then explained to her what was going on in her love life, and she was understandably upset with me. She believed I was trying to destroy her relationship and almost threw me out. Yeah. To prove my words, I showed her a video of my parents celebrating their anniversary from just a few months ago, and she was at a loss for words. She then asked to see more, and even though I tried to stop her, she kept asking. So I kept showing her more photos and other family stuff, and tears started flowing through her face. She then looked at her son, who was asleep, and told me that she had made a grave mistake. She said that she did not destroy my family knowingly. Not at all. And apologized to me while crying. I told her I knew about this, and I did not blame her one bit. I told her that she could refuse if she wanted to, but I was actually here to ask her for help. I'll repeat it. I did not force her or emotionally manipulate her, but she agreed to help by herself. Update number 3. It's been a month, and this is going to be it. So at first, I asked Monica to help me to get my mom's money from my dad, but she suggested something better. She said that because of what Dad did to both her and Mom, he did not deserve anything, and said that she was going to help me take everything. I didn't want it at first, but then she reminded me that I had not even told my mom yet, and asked me to imagine how hurt she was going to be. I then decided to go with her plan instead. So remember the thing that I was waiting for last time? Well, it was actually for Monica to give me thumbs up. A week after my update, my dad went to visit Monica, as she called Father and told him that I had shown up at their home. She tells Dad that I had tried to feed her false lies to destroy their relationship, and had a lot of evidence I was going to use to make much of his wealth during this divorce. Dad made excuses and told Monica that he believed their divorce had gone through, but Mom had done something to stop it, and she acted like she fell for it. While coming up with the solution to this problem, Monica asked Dad if he trusted her, and when he happily said yes, she then asked him to transfer everything he had to her so that Mom would get nothing no matter what she did. Dad was impressed with this idea and immediately agreed. By the end of the next 2 weeks, he had already signed off all the papers and was probably preparing to break the news to me happily. When Monica told me that he had signed the papers, I told Mom everything. She actually slapped me for doing all this behind her back. Monica even went on to help me convince her that this was the best option. I asked her to wait until Dad came home to confront him. Dad was in a jolly good fella mood as he entered the house, but he had no idea what was awaiting him. I almost felt bad for the poor guy, as Mom dragged him, cursed him, and insulted him, back and forth. He stayed silent until she let out much of her anger, and then said that I have done him the favor by telling her myself, Then Mom was in tears and asked Dad if she meant so little to him, and with a smile on his face he said yes. Then he asked me to pack both of our bags and get the hell out, and he reminded my mother that she did not even have savings because everything was his. He wasn't laughing 5 minutes later when we did not look surprised or scared. I told him that he was wrong. This house and the money were not his, and told him that I had packed his stuff up. He then asked me with all those authorities I had done this. Then I showed him Monica on a video call, who explained to him what we've done. She told him that this was our house and she was going to give everything to my mother after the divorce, and asked him to get out of her property. Dad was scared and started saying that we couldn't do this, and it's not fair. Well, I told him that, the most unfair person here was him, and then I kicked him out.